Give me a one line. Yes. Alright, this is the I.S.U.P.K second day of Purim. So we're gonna get into the book of Esther. Start at reading the chapter. Also, you got any questions? Just type them in. Alright, so we're gonna start at so we're gonna start off with the Esther chapter 3 and verse 12 where we left off yesterday. So then with the king's scribe called in the first day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants and to the governors that were over every province and the rulers of every people of every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language in the name of King Ahasuerus was it written and sealed with the king's ring. If you know anything about the king had the authority. Once it was sealed with his ring, that's like the king's signature. That means it's authorized. Same like the stamps that you see today, which comes from the queen. The stamps where it's got a heaven and it's stamp, that comes from the queen. That's authorized because it comes from there. Like on your letters, the letters authorized because of the heading and who it comes from. Same like back then. So Haman wanted what? All the Jews to destroy him. Just like every other heathen, they all hate us and they want us to destroy. So when people say we should love everyone, it makes no sense. Man. How you want us to love everyone and everybody hates us? We should love each other. That's what we should do. All that hate that they give us, we should love each other. Instead of, how can I hate another black man when I see that the rest of the world hates him? I see Arab hating, Chinese hating, West hating. And guess what? That brother who I'm going to have a beef with, guess what me and him got in common? All these nations hate the whole person. Same way they hate him, they also hate me. Man. So we need to come together. At the end of the day, we the same people. Man. We the same people, and every nation understands that. Man. When they stereotype us, they just speak about one of the slaves, speak about all of us as a race. Man. So how about we gather together? We're a nation that's not divided. How about we divide one another? How about we divide one another? You know? And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and supposed to perish all Jews, both young and old. They wanted to kill our young and our old. The young and innocent. You always say, oh, how can you say, oh, white people doing this? Them children ain't done nothing. Our children didn't do nothing. But what does the Bible say right here? What they went to destroy, to kill, and supposed to perish all Jews, both young and old. Meaning, you those little children that you've got barely able to talk. They wanted to kill them also. They wanted to kill them also. Now you're talking about, you can't say that about Edomites because them children are babies. For what? Ain't our children babies? Wasn't our children babies that was our children babies that was half starved to them? And them same Edomite babies that you're trying to save, guess what? They brought, and when they brought, they become to meet black men. They become to meet them, kill unarmed black men. They don't stay babies forever. You know? Both young and old, little children and women. Little children and women. In one day, from the third day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. So they had a day. They had a day when they was going to get rid of them. They had a day when they wanted to wipe us out. Man. They was looking forward to that day. Haman was looking forward to that day when he don't have to see black babies. He was looking forward to that day. Had a date in mind and everything. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. The post went out being hastened by the king's commandment, meaning that went out rapidly and went out fast. They sent out that fast man to get rid of us. 1 second. What's the sound sounding like now? And the letter was sent by post to all kings' provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. A copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. Post went out being hastened by the king's commandment, and the decree was given in Shushan the palace, and the king and the Haman sat down to drink. But the city Shushan was perplexed. It's distorted. Give me 1 second. What about now? Can you hear that? Can you hear me better now? Testing 1 2. Is the sound better now? Um, the sound should be fourth chapter, Esther. Page when Mordecai perceived all that was done. Mordecai rent his clothes. Now, back then when people's mourning, that's what they used to do. Rent their clothes, meaning they rip their clothes in two. They rip them. Why? He heard that they've got a day to destroy him and all his brethren. They've got a day to destroy him and all his people. And put on sackcloth. Says, and put on sackcloth with ashes and went out in the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry. Why? They're in captivity, man. They're in a place where they're ruled over by by the Persians and the Medes and whatnot. They're ruled over by them, and there's a king there who has what? An army, maximum power, and you're in his provinces, meaning what? The laws that he sets out, he expects you to follow them and abide by them. So he's got all power, he's got an army and everything. So yeah, they was governed by another race. And obviously this race has an army and everything, and they had a set date of when they was going to destroy them. And in every province whatsoever, the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth. Obviously, you do the same thing, man. Imagine you've got no power, no might, and you find out there's a date set for your death, man. There was weeping and mourning. They wanted to kill them, why? Because of their nationality, man. Why do they kill us till this day? Because of our nationality. Like, they've always been killing us from this time, before this time, until today, why? Because of our nationality. That's why they set out to harm us, and kill us, and they hate us so much, man. Like, no religion in the world is going to make them love you. You join in any religion they offer you, it's not going to make them love you, why? As a nation, you're a Jew, your nationality, you're a Jew according to the Bible, man. And they hate that fact. Harmless, not trouble no one. You could be the whitest black man there is. Guess what? You're a black man. You trying to be something that you're not, man. You trying to be something that you're not is gonna get you killed, man. Why don't you do what the Lord told you to be? The Esther's maids and the chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to kill Mordecai, and to take away sackcloth from him, but he refused it not. And this brother's upset. They sent like royal garments for him. He didn't receive it, right? You know there's a day. Royal garments for him. You and all them things. In slavery, those things. You and all of them things. Been oppressed. Then called Isupk attacked one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So attack went forth to Mordecai to the street of the city, which was before the king's gate, and Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of this, and of the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay the king's treasury to the Jews to destroy them. Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go into the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. And Mordecai saying, damn, he told her like, hide their nationality, because in the beginning, he told her, don't how the king should do it, and the king did and whatnot. Now the time is coming, he's going to have to say who are people, right? They want the whole nation, they want to destroy the whole nation. And Mordecai was like, you have to go to the king and make supplication. You have to go to the king and tell him, these are my people and they deserve to live. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. And again Esther spake unto Hatak and gave a commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces, do you know that whoever man or woman shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold at the golden scepter. So now, back then, that's how unless he was called in, unless he holds at the golden scepter. But today, man, you can't go to the king and find it. You try and get stuff from Queen God without which you ain't going to get past them without permission, man. That he may live, but I have not been called to come in unto the king these 30 days. So the king ain't called for 30 days, which is what a month. And they told to Mordecai Esther's word, and Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape from the king's house more than all the Jews. What? Think you're safe, and whatnot. And he says, for if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall there enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place, meaning you don't do it. And that's very important. You don't want to do the work of the Lord. Someone else will. You're supposed to do something. Like people think if they leave the truth or don't do what they're supposed to do, the truth's going to come. I don't know. The Lord just raise up somebody else to do it. This is what Mordecai is saying to her. You go do this and you can have the glory. Now imagine if she didn't do it, we would have been reading about somebody else. Because she did do it, this is why we're reading about her. If someone else done it, we would have been reading about them. Let's move on. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed, and who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such time as this? Meaning, how do you know? You ain't came to this power and a position of authority for this reason, man, for this purpose, for you to save your people, for you to go into the king and say to him, this is the step. Then Esther bade them return. Mordecai did Esther, go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also am a maid will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and shall perish. So she's saying, damn, well, fast for 3 days. She's saying, you got me, get everyone to fast. That's what we used to do. The Lord and the people saying that for Purim nowadays, you must fast this or lie, it doesn't say that. Yeah, it doesn't say that. So anything that you're hearing that's outside of the I.S.U.P.K, people saying that you must fast 3 days, you must celebrate 3 days. Nowhere does it say you have to fast. It said that they fast, they got 5 minutes to do it. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house. And the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house. And it was And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. And now she was in the court. Now touched the top of the scepter. This, going inside the court could have been life or death. So let's read on. So Esther drew near and touched the top. Then said the king unto her, what wilt thou, Queen Esther? And what would you like? And what is thy request? It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom. Meaning, what's your request, man? It shall be given you even half of the kingdom. Why? Esther was a sister, and one of the sisters that look good, man. You see, good. Most men are willing to give them whatever they want. This king, Esther put on a royal garment, man. She must have been looking good. This king said, whatever you want, even half of the kingdom. That's how good she was looking, man. She was willing to give it half of the kingdom. Let's read on. And Esther answered, if it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him. Then the king said, cause Haman to make haste that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther prepared. And the king said unto Esther, at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. And I say to even the half of the kingdom it shall be performed. He's willing to give a half. Says, then answered Esther and said, my petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that it stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation. So Haman was happy, man. He's been invited to a banquet with the king and Esther, so he's feeling like, you know what? I'm someone special for this second in charge. Because obviously, the king put Haman second in charge, so he's been invited to this banquet, and he's happy, man. And then he see Mordecai, and that's made him miserable, right? Because he's thinking everybody should bow and worship him, reverence him. He couldn't understand why this black man wouldn't bow to him, wouldn't worship him, wouldn't reverence him. He couldn't understand that, man. So he had indignation. He couldn't wait for this day to destroy all the Jews. He couldn't wait for this. He couldn't want this day to come quick enough. Which we don't. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. For when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that it stood not up nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called to his friends and the rest of his wife. Haman told them of the glory of his riches. Haman's telling them about what the kings gave him, and so forth. Told them about everything he's got, how the kings gave him, made him second in charge, how he gets to call the shots, how he gets to rule over people, how he gets to do all of these things. And when he came home, he sent and called to his friends and to the rest of his wife. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him. Does it sound better now? Let me know if the sound sounds better now. What's the sound sounding like now? Is it sounding any better now? Sound check one, two, sound check one. And so when he came home, he sent and called to his friends Zeresh, his wife, and Haman told them of the glory of his riches, and the multitude of his children, and all the things wherein the king had promoted him. So he's telling them about you see, if you get a new job, you're happy about your promotion, man. Haman was promoted, so he's happy about it. He called his friend, made merry, told him about the promotion, and how he had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. So he's telling them how he's second in charge and how he's this and that. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself. So he's telling people about the banquet that the queen prepared for him, not realizing that this is the beginning of the end of his life, man. He's thinking he's going to have the best time of his life at the banquet, man. Not realizing she's setting him up, man. She's setting him up to get killed. Why? Because he's trying to kill her people. And this is how sisters are supposed to be, man. To love their people enough over the fame and whatnot, man. They're meant to put their people over the fame that they get. Now you put some of these women in this position, they would have made the whole nation perish. They would have made all of us would have died, right? They would rather, happy with their title and whatnot. When Esther had it all, man. She went there, actually, we're going to get to that she had prepared but myself, and tomorrow I invited unto her also with the king. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. Like, he looked at Mordecai like he was trash, man. He said, you know what, my life's good, but Mordecai at the gate. He wanted to get rid of him. Why? Because Mordecai didn't respect him. Mordecai didn't bow down to him and worship him like everybody else did. Mordecai didn't bend the knee like everybody else did. Same like every oppressor wants to get rid of the I.S.U.P.K, right? We don't bow the knee to nobody, man. We don't bend down and bow the knee to nobody. We see middle class white men, rich white men. We don't bow down to none of them. Man. We look at them like they're nothing. We look at them how Mordecai looks at Haman. Man. That's what we do, man. Then sent to rush his wife and all his friends unto him. Let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon, and go down in merrily with the king unto the banquet, and the king pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made. They caused the gallows 50 cubits high, and they wanted to, they wanted to, what's the sound sounding like now? How's the sound sounding now? Sounds still distorted. One, two, three. Can you hear me now? Can't hear nothing.
Sound check, sound check. You can hear me now. Is that one 12 or is that one static as well?
Man, it's lagging bad. Yeah, that's perfect.
That was perfect. All right then. All right then. Let me go on this. Let me just go there so you can hear me from there. All right. Can you hear me now? Let me know if you can hear me. 100%. Oh, we got there in the end. Also in Christ. That was a test and a half. That was a test and a half. That was. It's all clear now.
Yeah, 12.
Oh, got there in the end. All right. So where was we? All right. So we're in the book of Esther, chapter 6 and verse 1. So like someone online, it's perfect now. Oh, most time first. The book of Esther, chapter 6 and verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. So on that night, for some reason, the king couldn't sleep, man. The king couldn't sleep, man. That's the Lord why the king couldn't sleep that night, man. So we're going to read on. And it was found written that Mordecai had told to Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay a hand on the king Ahasuerus. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. So what did Mordecai do? Save the king's life, man. Why? Because two of his chamberlains, two of his men, his doorkeepers, plotted to kill him. They plotted to kill him, but Mordecai heard it. Why? Because Mordecai was always at the king's gate. Mordecai was there. Why? Because he raised up Esther, and he just wanted to always see how Esther was doing. Because he raised her like a daughter. Let's read on. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? He says, then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was calling to the outward court of the king's house. Outward court of the king's house, to speak unto the king, to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servant said unto him, behold, Haman standeth in the court, and the king said, let him come in. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman thought the king was talking about him, man. So Haman's getting gas, thinking, damn, the king wants to give me more honor. Haman's thinking about himself, thinking, well, I'm the man who the king wants to honor. Says, now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself? So Haman's all puffed up, thinking, yo, the king loves me, I'm the king's right-hand man, I do all the work for the king, and so forth. Says, and Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal which is set upon his head, and let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal with whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city. And bringing him on horseback through the street of the city, why? So everybody can see him, man. Everybody can see this man on the king's horse, the king's royal garment, and everyone will look at this man and reverence this man. So Haman thought this man was going to be him that's going to ride through the city on the king's horseback and so forth. Proclaim before him, thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and horse as thou hast said, and do so to Mordecai the Jew. Listen, Haman must have had a heart attack, man. The same man that Haman was going to come to the king and say, yo, let me hang him on the gallows, man. Haman was going to say, let me hang Mordecai on the gallows today. They made a gallows. His wife told him, make the gallows 50 cubits high. And they was getting ready to hang Mordecai, man. To Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate, let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken. So Haman decided all this, lost his mind when he heard that all these things was going to be done to Mordecai, man. Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor. And Mordecai came again to the king's gate, But Haman hastened to his house, mourning and having his head covered. Meaning, Haman went to his house mourning, man. Haman went to his house mourning. Why? Because right there, his life got turned upside down, and he thought he was going to go through the city on the king's horse, the king's apparel. Come to find out, this very same man that he wants to hang on the gallows, the man who he hates, man, the man who he has indignation to, he has to go put all this stuff on him and see this man parading around the streets, man. Haman hated the Jews, man. And that's the thing, our oppressor hates doing things to black people, man. They hate doing things to black people. This is why they don't want to give black people jobs or managers positions and so forth. Why? Because the people under you won't want to work for you, man. The people under you won't want to work for you. So they just have you in a job, and for you to work, man, you have to work 10 times as hard as everyone else. Let's read on. And Haman told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh, his wife, unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. And they knew something, man, that you can't mess with God's chosen people. That's what they knew, man. They knew that you can't prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him. Verse 14. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hastened to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther prepared. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen, and the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. What is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request, man. Meaning Esther was willing to die for her people, man. She went in there and said, let me give him my life be given at my petition and this request that I'm about to make, man. Because this request that she's about to make is a heavy request, man. Everybody hates black people so much that what? You make this request to anyone, and rather be black people with death, man. She used that position she was in to make her request for her people to live, man. It says, for we are sold. I am my people to be destroyed. And that's black people, man. We sold to be destroyed, man. Everywhere we go, people want to destroy us, rob us, belittle us. We sold to be destroyed. It says to be slain and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I'd held my tongue. Meaning, if they was just sold to be bondmen and bondwomen, meaning if they was just sold to be slaves and whatnot, should have held their tongue. But now, they've gone further than that, man. Haman wants us dead, man. You know, they don't just want us as bondmen and bondwomen. They want us dead in the streets. It wiped off the face of the earth, man. They want us wiped off the face of the earth. Let's read on. To be slain and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue. Although the enemy could not come to God the king's damage. Then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he and where is he that does pursue in his heart to do so? And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. She let it be known, man, who this wicked man is, man. She let it be known who this adversary is. All these other nations today is our adversaries, man. That's right. It says, then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Why? Haman was afraid because he's seen that Esther had favor in the king's sight, man. So now Haman, who wanted to hang a black man this very same day on the gallows, now he's afraid for his life, man. Let's read on. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen. So now he stood up to make request for his life. Imagine, he wanted to kill Mordecai, and now he's going to Esther begging for his life, man. He's going to Esther begging for his life, man. Listen, man, Esther wasn't no Christian woman, man, that's going to say God loves everybody. Esther ain't no Christian woman that's going to say God forgives and loves everybody. That's Christianity, man. A Christian woman would allow Haman to keep his life and so forth and all of those things, man. Let's read on. Rest of the people, he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. So now he's in now. This king's ready to get rid of him, man. He's in this king's ready to almost wipe him out, man. So he's begging Esther, say to the king to spare my life. This man, he didn't want to spare Mordecai's life. Why should his life be spared, man? Why should his life be spared? Let's read on. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed, whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also? So now, Haman's holding on to Esther, man, begging for his life and whatnot. And then they fell on the bed, and the king sinned it and said, yo, he's going to force the queen also. He's going to force the queen in front of me. Meaning, it looks like he's almost trying to rape her, man, the way that he's holding on to when they're both falling on the bed. Let's read on. Haman stood up there, and Haman was fallen upon the bed wherein Esther was. Then said the king, go he forced the queen also before me in the house. As the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. So now, the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face, man. Now they're ready to hang this man on the same gallows that he made to hang black people on. Right. He wanted to hang black people on these gallows, and this same man's going to get hung on them gallows, man. Understand this? When we serve the Lord will fight for us, man. The Lord said he will be an enemy unto our enemies, man. And if we serve the Lord, he will be an enemy unto all of our enemies. And that's what we need to do, man. Instead of us not being an enemy of the Lord, we need to serve him, man, so he can walk with us and none of these nations will be able to harm us. Let's read on. Habna, one of the chamberlains, stood before the king. Behold, also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who had spoken goods to the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon. Listen, man. This man made the gallows, man, for us. And he got taken in his own crafty counsel, man. Tells you that in the book of Psalms, man. Those that dig the pit are going to fall into the pit which was made by their own hands, man. That's what happens to every nation when we serve the Lord, man. That's those excellent system, man. People make out like in here that we don't like women. We read the whole book of Esther, man. Right. We love righteous women, man. That's right. Esther, Ruth, and all of them, man. We love righteous women, man. People talking about, we hate women. I don't know where to get that from. We're reading about a sister right now, man. That because of her righteousness saved her people, man. Cared about her people. You put some other women in that position, man. This whole nation would be dead. This nation wouldn't exist, man. They're gonna be like, you know what? I'm the queen, and I'm gonna live, but the rest of you have to die. It's just like that sometimes. That's what they would do, man. But Esther said, you know what? She was willing to die for her people, man. Right. And that's how we should be. Let's read on. Then the king said, hang him thereon. And they hung him, man. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Meaning, once that king seen Haman hanged, man, his wrath was pacified, man. You're crying for you're crying for everybody. You're crying for everybody that dies, man. Everybody ain't our problem, man. Right. I guarantee you, the Christian church would have told you have to cry for Haman as well, man. Right. You would have cried for him, not realizing if he lived, he wouldn't cry for you, man. He wanted you gone. He saw black people and said, you know what? I got indignation every time I see Mordecai. Meaning all of this like good life I'm living means nothing until Mordecai's hanged. He's seen Mordecai as trash, and Mordecai deserved hanging on the gallows. So much that he made it, man. That he was going to the king to ask the king, yo, sanction this that I can go hang Mordecai right now. Let's read on. On that day did the king Ahasuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king to Esther and told what it was unto her. And the king took off his ring which he had taken from Haman and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. So now Mordecai got what? A good position, man. Gave him everything that Haman had. And now Mordecai came and told the king what he was to Esther. He came and told the king what he was to Esther, man. Let's read on. And the king took off his ring which he had taken from Haman and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spake yet again before the king and fell down at his feet and besought him with tears to put away the mischief from Haman, the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. So she went before the king and wanted him to overturn that decree that went out that all the Jews should be slaughtered on a certain day. She cried before the king and asked him to overturn that. Then the king held out the golden scepter towards Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king and said, if it please the king, and if I found favor in his sight, And the thing seemed right before the king, and I was pleasing in his eyes. Let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman. So they wanted them letters reversed, man. Because if them letters wasn't reversed, then previous letters that went out all had the same decree on there, killed the Jews on this day. So those people in the provinces would have killed us on that day. Let's read on. The son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? And all of us should think like that, man. Everybody in this family should think like that, man. That we don't want to see no evil come upon our people.
That's right.
Esther's basically saying, what does it mean to me to be the queen and my people are destroyed, man? That means nothing to me. I don't want to see the death and destruction of my people. Meanwhile, you put someone else in that position, they would love to see the death and destruction of their people, man.
Right.
Why? Because they got no brotherhood. They don't care about black and Hispanics. Meanwhile, Esther did, man. Why? Because she was raised by her uncle Mordecai, who raised her right. He raised her the correct way, man. He raised her how every daughter should be raised. Let's read on before we wrap this up. So says, so how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. This man, listen, if Haman minded his business, man, and didn't hate blacks and Hispanics, guess what? He could have lived, man. Because he wanted to kill us, he had to die, man. That's right. And that's why all these other nations that want to harm us, they have to be harmed, man. Right. Why? Because the Lord protects his children, man. Let's read on. Write ye also for the Jews as it liketh you in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring for the writing, which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Meaning write it, man, and what's sealed in the king's name, may no man reverse. Says, then were the king's scribes called at that time in the 3rd month, that is the month Sivan, on the 20th day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers of the provinces, which are from India unto Ethiopia, and 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Jews according to their writing, and according to their language. And he wrote in the king Ahasuerus' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by post, and horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries. So now, they sent out a new decree from the king, saying, listen, forget that first one and let the Jews live. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them. Meaning everyone that was assaulting us, man, we had the right to fight back, man. We had the right to defend ourselves. Now, every other nation still destroyed the Jews, man, and they was ready to do it, man. And we got the right to fight back and to defend ourselves, man. That's right. Against everyone that's going to assault us. Like during the time of slavery, what we didn't defend ourselves, man. We just took them assaults. It was assaulted and killed. It was assaulted, man. There were some brothers that used to fight back. The Maroons, especially, man, in the Caribbean, or some brothers on the ships that used to fight back, man. Until after a while, ISO started getting guns on the ships, man. Started having these guns and whatnot everywhere.
And Slovakia as well. Like after they gave us Christianity, stopped fighting back in it. So.
Then we started fighting back with God loves everybody, which is no fight, right? Which is weakness. To a Christian, that's fighting. God loves everybody. To a Christian, that is, I'm the bigger person. God loves everybody. These times you're being abused. There's men like Haman that's got a gallows ready to hang you on, man. And you're saying God loves everybody. Meanwhile, Haman's ready to hang you on a gallows, man. That would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. We had the right to take the spoil for a prey, man. And that time's almost coming back around, man. Right. And what these other nations is going to come out to fight us. When Christ returns, they're going to come to fight Christ, and he's going to destroy them, man. That's right. He's going to destroy them, man. And we're going to be right there with him, man. We're going to be right there fighting with him, man. I don't want to hear nobody beside us saying God loves everybody. Listen, we're there to fight, man. Right. I don't think if you say God loves everybody, I don't think you're in blackface, man. Right. I don't think you ain't a real black man, man. Just so you know. So upon one day, all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar. A copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. Listen, man, we was meant to avenge ourselves on our enemies, man. Meaning, you fight back, man. Meaning, someone attacks you, you defend yourself, man. In here, we teach to defend yourself, man.
Right.
Like, someone is supposed to come and punch you in the face and take everything from you, and you stand there and say, God loves everybody.
Right.
So, man, you better throw them fists, man.
Someone
throws fists at you, man. You throw some fists back, man.
That's right.
You standing there saying, God loves everybody. Everyone's going to rob you, man.
Right.
Everyone's going to rob you, man. So the post that rode upon mules and camels went out being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown. Listen, man, not too long ago, Mordecai was born in a bit of crying in the city, man. Now Mordecai is out there in great apparel, man. Great royal apparel of gold and blue and so forth, of gold and white, with a garment of fine linen and purple, and the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor. Imagine, we was all mourning 1 minute, fasting, crying, thinking we were all gonna die, and it turned around, man. Now what? A decree was sent out that we shouldn't die, that we can avenge and defend ourselves. And if all of us came together as a nation, man, none of these nations could do nothing to us, man.
That's right.
Just imagine half the men that you've had issues with from that neighborhood and this neighborhood. Imagine if we came together on one team, man. No one could stand before us. So what does our oppressor make us do? We just fight each other, man. Because he knows if we all stood together, couldn't no white man stop us, man.
That's right.
Couldn't stop us, man. Couldn't no Chinese man beat up our women in the Chinese stores, man. They teach us to be so divided that a Chinese man beats up a sister in the Chinese shop, and a black man records it, and then he says, well, she ain't my sister, she ain't my mom. Whereas if we understood those brothers and sisters, man, that Chinese man would know that he can't abuse nobody in front of him.
That's right.
He would know he can't abuse no black man in front of him, man. Let's read on. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor, and in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day, and many of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Now that don't mean they became Jews, that just means that they started to keep our customs and wanted to behave like they was Jews. Why? Because they didn't want to die, man. Because they understood they didn't want to die, they didn't want to be killed. But in the kingdom, man, you're going to have these slaves behaving like Jews, man.
Right.
You're going to have them in the kingdom celebrating our feast days, man.
Right.
You get all of those things, man. They're going to be celebrating our feast days. They're going to be like them became Jews, right? Because they know that in our kingdom, you ain't celebrating no Eid, man.
Right.
You better become as a Jew and celebrate feast days that we celebrate.
That's right.
That's right. It's like we become Gentiles.
Right.
We keeping our people keeping Christmas and Easter and all the rest of it.
Exactly. Even though it's not for us, we still keep it. Even though the white man knows Christmas is just for him, we still celebrate his Christmas. So in our kingdom, like they know Passover is just for us, they're still gonna celebrate it. All they're gonna know, you see, like on every time Christmas comes around, they have the Coca-Cola advert. Oh, listen, in our kingdom, you're just gonna see the lamb slaughter advert, and then that means the Passover's coming up. And you're gonna celebrate it, man. Let's read on, verse 9. Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hope to have power over them. Everybody wants power over us, man. And we give them that power, man, by being so divided. Imagine if we stuck together, man. They wouldn't have that power. These Chinese have power over our sisters in them shops. Why? Black people don't stick together, man.
That's right.
Basically, the rest of it lets you know that the Jews slaughtered all of their enemies that came up against them or came against us. We slaughtered all of our enemies. Give me 1 second. And also, they hanged Haman's 10 sons on the gallows, man. Haman just thought it was him now, man. They hanged Haman's 10 sons on the gallows, man. And guess what? They deserved it, man. That's right. They deserved it, man. The same way Esau tells us today our sons deserve to get shot. Right. How many sons deserve to get hanged, man? Let's go down to the report. Basically, the Jews everywhere where there was fighting, going to war. And the thing is this, they won this fight. Why? Because they stuck together, man. It wasn't divided by Christianity and Islam and all these mixed religions. Alright, let's get to it now. So, but the Jews that assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and the 14th day thereof, on the 15th day of the same day rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. And why are we glad? That Haman got hanged, his 10 sons got hanged, that our enemies got destroyed, man. Right. That's a day of gladness for us, man. Right. So in a minute, we're about to drink and feast, man, and celebrate this gladness, man. Right. Because they wanted to destroy us and they ended up getting destroyed, man. That's right. Let's read on. Therefore, the Jews of the villages that dwell in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. I mean, they're sending food and so forth. And this is a good day, man. Haman and his sons was hanging, man. This day thousands of years ago, man. And this is a memorial, man. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king, Ahasuerus, both night and far, to establish this among them that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly. And Christians don't keep this right because they don't follow the Bible, man. That's right. They don't even know what Purim is. They don't follow the Bible. It says, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written them, because Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy. Let me get to the main part. It says, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. We're meant to keep this forever, man. That's right. You ain't supposed to stop doing this to celebrate Christmas. And listen, man, this is meant to be here forever, man. That's right. And that's how you know in the I.S.U.P.K, we keep these feast days and these memorials alive. Right. Right. Keep them alive, man. Everywhere else, they forget about these feast days, man. If it wasn't for the Lord bringing his prophets back in 1969, man, right, we wouldn't know nothing about these feast days, man. That's right. Keep them alive. Let's just finish this up. It says, then Esther, the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai, the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm the second letter of Purim, and that's what we celebrate right now. It says, and he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, which words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen. And this is the days of Purim, man. Clap it up, man. Also, Salakia and the ends is starting same time, 9 o'clock, man. So everyone online, stay put. On the ends is starting 9 o'clock.
Then we got a special guest as well.
We also got a special guest as well. So for all those at home, man, on the ends will start in the next half an hour. We got a special guest also, man. You're gonna see us. Salakia, you might see us eating on the camera and whatnot, but you know, joy and gladness, and you know, we wish we could, you know, deliver your plate and whatnot. But if you're in the UK, man, you should be here right with us, man. Right. God. And the next feast is the Passover, man. And just get in touch with the school to find out what's going on with that.
No. Right.